So I'm doing a crankshaft sensor. Basically, I've got pretty erratic revs. I've tried the Maff sensor. That didn't seem to be it. So I'm just trying a few different sensors to see if I can get rid of this erratic revs. It's sort of revving from 1 to 2,000 revs, and it's popped up that someone's said that it's the crankshaft sensor. So basically I've had a look underneath. You can get to it underneath, so luckily enough I've got a lift, but you probably can get to it if you just jack it up, but you need to unplug it for the top side. So to do that you need to undo this and pull the tube off of here that was on here, but it's now disappeared somewhere, but that just pulls off, and then that literally just lifts up. So now I've got basically I might actually be able to do it all from the top. So the sensor itself looks like this. Where is it? The sensor itself looks like this. And being that it's right on the crank, it needs to be slightly measured. I think they said it's like a credit card version, but I think it's 0.4 or something like that. I'll check the you need to get a feeler gauge. But essentially, I went underneath, that's it down here. That's it down there, and butted up against the spinning crank. So the actual plug, the wire comes up to here. So basically I need to take that off. There goes my light. Okay, I need 2 hands for this. Okay, so yeah, need to get this one off. So you push down the tab. That's a fucker. Okay, and that ain't coming out, which is a bit of a bum. God damn. So I need to get a screwdriver. So that's it. So if you push down on this bottom one and then pull the top one out, that's how it comes out. I thought it was the other way around and the bottom one come out, but this one actually doesn't move because that is just plugged in with a little plug around the back. See around the back of here is like a little, so I'm gonna have to get some pliers, pinch that together. That'll then come out, and then we'll go from there. So next part was a bit of a swine. So basically, once you've unhooked that, you've got to get it through here without taking the belt off. But there's a little metal flap behind here, which means you can push this over. You can get that through there. And then I've unbolted at the bottom earlier, which is just a 10mm bolt that holds it on. So what I've done now, put the other one back up, plug that in. And then basically fed the wire, so now it's hanging down. So now I'll just get on the underside and I'll show you from the underside. So before I've done that, I've just pushed this side back on, push this side back on. You've got to do those 2 bolts up. This was the pipe I was on about, and it just comes from the top of the engine here. So that can all be done up before you go on the underside, so then it's pretty much done on top level. Right guys, so as you can see, I've dropped the wire down, and it's now hanging down here, and this is basically, see the teeth here, so these are the little teeth here. You got to put a 22mm, I think it is, socket on that and line that up with where the sensor, the old sensor was, which to be fair, oh yeah, so it's here. So I've lined that up with where, before I took the other one off. So the other one was actually chasing into the sensor, whereas this one, somehow I've got to fucking move that around. But yeah, so basically when you put the sensor on, I'll get that in position in a minute, you then get a feeler gauge, which is, I think it's 0.8 on a feeler gauge, is what the manual's saying, something along that, 0.8, and that will be from that little nub, which is basically one of those. This little nub here, this little bit sticks out. I've got one right by the sensor, because that you line that up with the middle of the sensor and that'll get the timing right. So once I put this, bolt this back on, I've just got to push the wires into where they were. Basically there's like a little, it's hard to see, but there's like a little route it goes down, but essentially just copy what you've taken out, and then I've just got to reposition that sensor to make sure that's in the right location. I'll show you that in a second. See, this is the one I took out. The sensor's actually on this side. It looks like it should be that side. But as you can see there, that little nub has been cutting into the, so obviously the timing was slightly out on that. So I mean, that's a good sign so far. So basically, you obviously get the feeler gauge between that and that nub. and that is where it needs to be. So I'm just going to. So I've got that in position. That is in line with the nub because I haven't moved the engine at all. So I mean that's still in line. And then I've put the 10mm bolt back in there. So I need a slight extension on the socket, 10mm. I need to obviously get that in a little bit more beforehand. So once you get that, you just tighten this up. Tighten that one 10mm bolt back up as much as possible before it actually properly bites. Okay. Because this sensor obviously has got a bit of movement. It's only on one bolt so it can pivot. So what you got to do is once you get it near biting point, which is about there, then .8 on the feeler gauge. Find that little nub. That's a miles away there. So this can move this way. So obviously it's on a pivot. So what I've got to do is put, oh Christ. Okay, so I moved the light slightly. But you got a little nub in there. Let me have a look. Got a little nub in there. And then push that too. So now I've got, that's where I want to be, but I need two hands. So imagine doing that. And obviously use your other hand, leave that feeler gauge on the nub and the sensor, and then tighten that 10mm bolt. Okay, so that's it in. So you can see, maybe just about see, I get a feeler gauge up there, and you see that little nub there. It's just tight in there. That's the position, .8. Obviously to get to all of this, you need to take the under tray off. The under tray is just generally little 10mm bolts. They're all really obvious. Once you've unscrewed them, that just drops back out. So you just got to put that back in at the end.